Namaste, angels. I'm getting started with this a little later than I would have liked in order to have it up to you on time. So I'm going to apologize in advance just in case I don't, but I will make every attempt to get it up to you in time so you can see it today, Sunday, November 28th. This reading will go through Saturday to come, December 3rd. Can you believe like the year is over? We are starting with spend money. It's 50-50 and stay in bed. Spirit says romantic dinner. Yes. And party. We are beginning with the Hermit, which I have to mention jumped out of the deck like 3 times. Once I had to even pick it up off the floor as I was shuffling the cards. So the Hermit was determined to be here and positions itself on top. When I say the prayers over the cards and shuffle them, my eyes are even closed. So I had no idea where the Hermit was gonna was during that shuffling or was gonna end up. When I opened them, he was sitting there on top, and I just had to laugh to myself because of course I had to open my eyes, or my eyes had to be open when I was like, "Oop, a card just went flying. Let me find it." Anyway, so this could be having to do with a spiritual situation, spiritual growth, ascension, a legal situation. With the, I'm able to see that the Fool is also upright immediately behind it. So if it's a legal situation, it would be something that would be beneficial to you, even if it was like having to do with divorce or something, which might seem like a sad situation. But it's like what you're meant to do or get away from a person. And the idea is have the faith to do it, leap of faith with the Fool. But it could be, some sort of contract, maybe a new job, go ahead and take the leap and sign the legal contract. Can have something to do with school for me. Like the Hermit shows up as like a professor or a lawyer for me sometimes, or like a very spiritual person or a holy man, like a hermit, might be a monk. So it could also have to do with ascension. If it has anything to do with love and relationship, again, and rekindling a relationship with an ex. I started talking about it on my channel, in my last few videos based on the cards that were coming out. And I heard from a lot of you that your exes had returned. And one that I thought had finally given up, you've heard me mention him probably before, I give them all nicknames, since you guys don't know them anyway, but the Latin lover. I hadn't heard from him in a few months. And this was somebody who would contact me, if not, fairly regularly just for the sake of doing it, at least on the holidays. And like every holiday, like he'd send me like happy Valentine's. Happy like Veterans Day, and I'm not a veteran. Happy Veterans Day, beautiful woman or whatever, different things he would send. So I hadn't gotten that from him in a while. And sure enough, Thanksgiving Day, he was back at it again. So I'm like, wow, like even you came back again. I thought that was over. So, and I say all this to say a lot of people that I heard from after that, letting me know that their exes were returning, and sometimes several exes at once. People that they never expected to hear from again, popping up. So with some, we could be guided to take a chance on them, take a leap of faith. Go ahead and see what they have to say. Or again, this can be about anything that the Hermit is possibly about. A job, a legal situation, a school situation, some other sort of contract, maybe having to do with like getting a new home, or I don't know, anything that would be contractual that you would have to like take a chance on yourself in order to achieve. And then here we have, the choices, the goals, the dreams, and you perhaps picking one. And then, what you're choosing is going to be your happiness. So whatever decision, whatever choice, whatever cup holds the choice that represents your peace, your contentment, your joy, your happiness, your relationship status, as it grows and becomes more positive, more loving, your household, your home, and just being really happy. With the Four of Wands, that's the thing that you're choosing. Because you're over this period of betrayal, loss, separation, and all of that. And under this is actually justice. So again, for some people, this is going to be a legal situation and maybe even divorce. I don't know why divorce had popped into my head. But again, the result is positive. And maybe even a new, healthier, happier marriage in your future. Or I guess for some of you, you could have done that already and you're up to this stage, but for the most part, it will be where, you know, this is where you're at. So I was late because in doing this, for one thing, today's my daughter's birthday. So that doesn't have anything to do with why I didn't start it earlier. So earlier in the week or over the weekend, in addition to the holiday, I had a client that was in complete crisis, relationship crisis, following that full moon and lunar eclipse. Oh man. And, you know, up until today, I've been working with her on some energy healing and cleansing and stuff. That was one thing. I even broke 2 nails. This one is broken like 3 or 4 times as recently as today. You know, since the first time it broke, and it was one of my longest. It broke on Thanksgiving. I was cooking, and I don't remember what I was doing at the time, but it went flying across the kitchen. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. And I don't know why, because ever since they started breaking in general, when I've been going to James, I've had him cut them. I say every time, cut my nails, cut my nails, cut my nails. So now it's like there's really not much space between my nails and the acrylic. You know, it's to the top. Like, so like what is breaking? And then kind of short. So it's like, what is breaking? I don't know. Oh, strength in reverse. So the first time that that the Hermit card jumped out of the deck, it jumped out with strength in reverse. And in fact, they were both reversed at the time. We have the Queen of Cups upright immediately behind that. So this could be, you know, saying that there's more strength available to you. There's more support available to you, perhaps in a situation that is emotional. It doesn't necessarily have to be involving love and relationship, but something in which you are emotionally invested, and or it has to do with a woman, maybe like a mother or a mother figure who is a nurturer, and maybe doesn't take the time out for herself. So that's why her strength is sort of, or confidence, and just need to, you know, or thoughts about doing self-care might be sort of low. And then the strength shows up to support her in that, to remind her sort of who she is, and that she needs to take care of herself the way she takes care of everybody else so wonderfully. Major Arcana card strength most directly represents the sign of Leo, and the Queen of Cups most directly represents the sign of Scorpio. However, it can also be a Cancer or Pisces, or someone likened to those traits or attributes that's not a water sign at all. Card that most directly represents the collective this week is the Four of Pentacles in reverse. So this talks about sort of what I was saying, like releasing something that's not serving you and ending up in a better situation, divorcing yourself of something or someone and ending up in a better situation, even if it's talking about literal divorce, letting go of a bad relationship, letting go of the wrong job, a dead-end job that doesn't support you, doesn't respect you, where you're maybe mistreated, and you all along you've been saying, well, at least I get a paycheck, and you finally said, you know what, I deserve more than a paycheck. I deserve to be treated like a human being, and all these other things too. So we have that. Surrounding energy involving close friends, family members, co-workers, things going on, down at your job or something. We have the Six of Pentacles. So that is positive. This can be support from a friend or vice versa. You could be showing support to a friend or to somebody. This is about timely assistance. Work and finance. 10 of Pentacles in reverse. And love and relationship. 8 of Pentacles upright. Only Pentacles. Right? That's super interesting. May have something to do with Venus. The fact that she is located in Capricorn. Maybe. Physical health. 4 of Cups. spiritual health. 5 of Swords. Okay, so strength in reverse doesn't mean that we're not strong. Let me get that out of the way first. I've mentioned before that strength is one of the few cards. I can't really think of any others right now off the top of my head. Well, there's like the 9 of Cups. Stuff like that. Yeah, I guess there's a couple. But it's one of the few cards that, whether it's upright or in reverse, it doesn't matter. It's still a wonderful card. It still means great things. So, as an overall energy here, you know, it's an indication that we have a lot to be grateful for, and that we should be making every point and, you know, every opportunity to count our blessings. You know, we all wish that we had more, right? More of everything. More or better health. More or better, you know, relationships. More friends. More money. You know, a bigger house. More whatever. But appreciating what we currently have is key to opening up ourselves to greater abundance. That's one thing. Also, it doesn't say that we're not strong. You know, actually it's the opposite. It's like, to the contrary, it's typically that there is more strength in us for an immediate situation that we're dealing with, or in our immediate situation that we're dealing with, than we are recognizing, seeing, realizing we have in a time. So if we're having trouble feeling the from where that strength comes, or the fact that it's available in a moment, then we should get with maybe a trusted friend, honest, you know, loved one, somebody that knows us, cares about us, that can help us to realize these things, you know. But what about, you know, you have the best marriage, you know, you've got a wonderful husband, a wonderful wife. What about your job? It's amazing, you know, you're happy there. You enjoy what you do. Most people don't, you know, we just go there and we get a check, you know, that kind of thing. Somebody that can support you, encourage you, uplift you in this kind of moment and remind you of that strength. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and segue into the 4 of Pentacles in reverse. And this card implies that, you know, this, again, we're holding on to things. Well, people, places, things, situations, circumstances, negative emotions, whatever it is, or emotions in general, definitely more than we should be doing, for our own good, our own well-being, maybe our own mental peace, and you know, health. And, you know, it's time to chill. It's time to relax and to remember that we can't control what others do, think, say. And I'm wondering if this card popped up as a reminder, because it did just remind me of the fact that I meant to talk about false twins today. So I'll try to keep that in my head, that I have something to say about this in a moment. You know, it's about the fact that we're not in charge of what other people do, how they react, how they choose to use their free will. You know, we all have free will, and we all have the right to our own choices. So we can only focus on our choices. And, you know, then there's the thought about karmic energy, and we got to remember that too. Like, we have no control over karmic energy. We can only choose and use our free will to decide how we respond to it, how we react to it, if at all. All right. So, also, this card can mean that we're moving through a situation involving being too, or having held on to, again, a job or a situation, a relationship far too long, and moving past that sort of fear-based, clingy existence, and suddenly just being more open to moving away from that, and maybe to being more generous with ourselves, with others, and more aware that fear solves nothing. It can actually create more damage, you know, negative influences in our life. It can cause us to, you know, it's the same that we can manifest negativity as easily as we can positivity based on what we put into the universe. So this is like, it's like a reminder of that, and just a reminder to make a point to think positively. Make it a point to do that, because that's going to help us. And I know it's easier said than done, but again, we're being reminded of who we are and the strength that we have to draw upon to help us with that. I also want to mention that with regard to work, it can be about just being really too worried about the safety and security of your job. You're just far more worried about it than you need to be. And I mean, this can be understandable in consideration of, like, the economic crisis, of course. People are scared. The global situation, the national situation, maybe even the more local situation in your own state or city. But at the same time, it's that kind of negative thinking that is self-perpetuating, so you can bring about this manifestation of, negative things that you don't want in your life. And it can be, because of that, it can be, just counterproductive to worry so much and actually cause your work to suffer. So again, it's about thinking positively. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned that, because you'll understand more when I get to the 10 of Pentacles in reverse in the position of work and finance. I've mentioned many times that the 6 of Pentacles in the position of, well, whatever position it's in, but it's currently in the position of surrounding energy, again, involving close friends, family members, co-workers, things like that, is one of my most favorite cards. It totally is representative of Venus. And, since, again, we have all these pentacles up here in the top row, I think it could be really tied to the fact that Venus is located in Capricorn and what that means for us this week in that regard. But the card to me is totally representative of Venus. I see the air energy. I see the Libra. I see the Gemini. I see the Taurus very clearly. And the 6 also is very representative of the mother energy, divine mother. So more of the Venus there. But more importantly, the card shows up, to let us know that there's going to be a turn for the better, or that there has been recently. Particularly with regard to money. It's like one of the more positive Pentacles cards, again, especially as it relates to money. And it also, like the number 6 itself, speaks about equality and equity and fairness. And, the fact that life is about cycles and things, and that sort of real feminine energy, again, Venus and stuff. And when the card appears, therefore, it tends to, let us know that we're heading into a more positive cycle, if we haven't recently arrived there already. It can also be about generosity, meaning that either we are either about to be like the beneficiary, the recipient, or the giver. And this could be tied to the die that we saw in the beginning of 50-50, of something of value. Whether that something is money, that something is our hearts, that something is, love, that something is an opportunity. I say that the card is about timely assistance, like right on time assistance. When you, at that moment where you think all is lost even, and this thing shows up sort of like an angel, earth angel, or just purely God did this. There is no, he's not working through a particular vehicle or vessel, but this miracle happened, right in your hour of need. That's what the 6 of Pentacles represents for me. And, so it doesn't have to be of a monetary nature. It can be a listening ear. So again, this could be about a friend that is supporting you, or a friend that you're supporting through a difficult time. Can be about spiritual support, which definitely could be necessary this week with regard to the 5 of Swords in our placement of spiritual health. It can be about, again, the opportunities. Somebody helps you. Somebody slides in with something that you need right on time. Like I said in the beginning, for example, the Hermit, sometimes for me is a lawyer. Maybe you need legal advice. Maybe you need legal representation. And somebody says, oh, don't worry, pro bono. I'll show up for you in court or with you, and I'll give you that support that you need. And it's like, what? Like, really? Wow. Like, you saving the day. That's what the Six of Pentacles represents. So all of that said, we're going to move into the Ten of Pentacles and working finance. Now, the reason I said that I was getting an additional message and felt the need to talk to you about what this card meant with regard to work is because with regard to work, for the Ten of Pentacles in reverse, it can mean that you are considering leaving a job that is stable and lucrative for you, and possibly like on a whim. Like, you may say, you know what, fuck this job, like out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. And people are doing that all over the country, actually. They're just really deciding they don't want these jobs anymore, and they yearn to do something else, or maybe to work from home, or all kinds of stuff. Anyway, the card guides you to, sort of think long and hard. And so maybe you consider that Seven of Cups card that we saw in the beginning, and you got goals, you got choices, you got options, and you want to narrow it down and figure out if this is really the best thing for you to do. Yes, life is about taking chances, and we also had the Fool, but we're not meant to take like blind, uninformed chances, Also, if you're looking for work and this card shows up, it can be about a scam, like a fake job. So let's say you want to be a model, and they say, okay, I'm a manager. I manage models. All you got to do is give me $500. I'll take a picture of you for your headshot, and I'll get you some jobs. And it's like, are you sure? Yeah, this happens. This is how we do it. This is how the industry works. Not really. Not really. You shouldn't have to pay money to get a job, So it's that sort of thing. And it doesn't have to be specifically with regard to model. There's other things. Yes, sometimes there are fees involved with getting a job that's different. Like if you're hired, for example, to do security, but you had to get your own security license, that's a different story. That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. That sort of thing is fine. You want to be a notary, you got to get a notary license, and there's a cost involved with that. Maybe your job will pay for it, or maybe you're required to pay for it yourself. That's fine too. But these things where you got to send somebody money in order for them to hire you is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Different types of scams. What else do we want to say about this? Oh, I haven't talked about finances specifically. So finances specifically meaning not necessarily tied to your job. Could be other money or, the equivalent. And you especially need to be cautious in any financial dealings this week that you have. Things may seem like a good idea. So again, could be tied to some sort of scam or something. May seem like a good idea on the surface, but turn out to be less than you had, expected and anticipated. If you're doing actual investments, invest, carefully, wisely, and watch where and in whom you put your trust this week with regard to your money. Oh, and so the reason I wanted to point this out is, again, because this can be about letting things go, like a job that, isn't maybe appropriate for you. And the fact that this is a stable job and it's lucrative still doesn't necessarily mean that it's appropriate if it's not fulfilling, if you feel like it's taking you away from your life purpose, then maybe there is valid reason for you to leave even a lucrative job. Not money is not what everybody or everything is about. And that brings us to love and relationship, and our last Pentacles card here, the Eight of Pentacles. So if you're currently in a committed relationship, it's possible that your workload or your work in general, maybe the number of jobs that you have or the number of hours that you work, for you or that of your partner, it could be your partner, or both maybe, is interfering with the relationship somehow. So obviously, if we want to remain together, we got to make it a point to make time and space for the relationship, for our partner, for our love interest, for our, the person we're trying to date or whatever it is. I remember the one time I met this guy online on Facebook, on a Facebook group or something like that. And he, asked to take me out. And so I gave him like my schedule, like, okay, well, I go to the gym 3 nights a week, and These days are the days that I do my readings, but I'm free this day, this time, and this day, at this time, and this. Like I gave him like my whole thing, and he was like, "Forget it, like you're too busy to date." And I'm like, "Okay," So he was right. Like I wasn't beat for a date. I was happy doing those other things. But the truth is, if you are interested, legitimately interested in a relationship, enough so that you're willing to prioritize it and maybe let go of some of these other things that you do, then that's what this card is calling for you to do. Even if you're single, right? Or also, it's true, also if you're single, that if you want a relationship in your life, if you want love, then you have to like make room for it. And so that's what the card is about. And the Eight of Pentacles in general is about a period typically of real work. Could be hard work, could be very hard work. But then reaping what we've sown. So receiving the benefit of having put in that work. So think about it in terms of applying that toward love and relationship. Or, you put the work into the relationship, you're going to get reap the benefits of having done so. Four of Cups, physical health. So this too asks that we focus on the positive. If we're having some sort of physical health problem, medical issue or whatever, it's important to remember that things are temporary. These things like that are temporary, where everything is temporary. And that means they don't have to always be like they are right now, and they will not always be like they are right now. So, and there are things that we can do to change how they are right now. So like paying attention to diet and exercise and, getting enough rest and sleep and drinking enough water and, all the things that we know are good for our health, making sure you get enough vitamins and nutrients and protein and, all the things that we know to do are things that could help us. And it's possible that we may, again, need to look to a friend or relative, some sort of support, counselor, or somebody, maybe to help us remind us of that and of our strength. And, just moving beyond this idea of I'm sick, and I'm always going to be sick. Like, no, I'm well, right? I'm healed. We can even manifest that if there's a real, genuine belief behind it. I am healed. I'm well. I am cleansed. I am, whatever it is. Moving on to spiritual health. So the Five of Swords says that even if all of a sudden we've gotten all the answers, right? Because swords are about information and clarity and all that kind of stuff, right? So even if we've gotten all the information, all the spiritual answers that we've been looking for our whole life, maybe even, we got to still remember that those are our answers. Those are not our friends' answers. Those are not our boyfriend's answers, our girlfriend's answers, our husband's answers, our wife's answers, our co-workers. Those are ours. And it is not our place to sort of try to convert other people to our way of thinking. And it's not appropriate, is what the Five of Swords says. It can also indicate like a sudden break, cutting it off, or using the sword to cut off some sort of spirituality or spiritual practice or something, spiritual relationship, soulmate connection, right? Maybe even that we feel no longer works for us, no longer serves us. So like it has served its purpose and its time, and it was only meant for a season, not to be permanent, and that season is over until we cut it out. And if that's the case, then we're also meant to give ourselves like time and space to find new answers. Maybe we could be, again, cutting off a relationship as it, as it once existed, like I was saying about my client, but it can exist now in a new way. Never going to exist the way it did again. And in part, maybe because of the full moon, because of the eclipse or whatever. There was like a finality to that, complete ending to whatever that was. But now there's room for something new, you know, and whatever that's going to be. And we just have to give ourselves, again, the space and time, allow ourselves that to figure out what that is. I'd also taken these cards out. These are my Mary Magdalene cards, and I'm going to use them as clarifiers. I apologize for not showing them before. I had them here next to me on the side. Oh, so I said I wanted to talk about false twins. I'll do that while I shuffle these, because I didn't shuffle them in front of you either. So this idea of false twins, it's been a long time since we've had one of these chats, is sometimes what we're considering now, or in a moment where something isn't working out, to be a false twin was still the real twin or a real soulmate, you know, a false soulmate or whatever. It's a real soulmate. Again, we get into free will. Each person has free will. So if you were chosen, or you chose when you were a soul, that I'm going to come down with this other person, and we're going to meet up at some point in life, and we're going to connect and complete, you know, whatever task is assigned to us as part of the supporting the growth and increase in the Earth's vibration and healing the planet. And you know, that's what we're going down to do. And then you get here, and one of you remembers it, and the other one doesn't yet, maybe, because everybody goes their own pace, and everybody has their own, you know, timeline, even if we were split from sort of the same soul. And we decide's actually not the right word, because this could be completely subconscious. We, all right, if two people are on a path and they're not necessarily on the path at the same time, when we're able to come together as these twins is when our vibrations are likened. And when they're not is when we're kind of like literally having to say, oh, we're in two different worlds. We're in two different dimensions. That's pretty much what's happening, you know, and that's why you can't come together. That's why it seems like the other person maybe is talking gibberish, not speaking English, and the same thing for you. And you literally don't understand each other. You don't understand why they're upset. They don't understand why you're upset. You know, you don't have the same memories. It's like, what are you talking about? It's all because you weren't in the same dimension. But then when that resolves itself, and sometimes it can take a long time, sometimes it can you know, happen pretty quickly, especially when our minds are in the right place and we're able to, you know, draw in the using law of attraction, then we can come back together. But there are times before, during, after, all of that, where we also make decisions, and it might not be a decision in totality as to whether or not we want to have involvement with this person, but everything we choose to do along that path can affect the overall outcome. And so basically when we choose not to walk that path, now the other person, they continued walking the path, right? And that person would usually be the divine feminine, whether they're male or female, straight, gay, whatever, the divine feminine, whoever identifies that way, is normally the one that's further along, further ahead. And so they continued on the path. They stayed on it, and now they're here. And now, you know, they went through that dark night of the soul, just where they felt like their soul was being, you know, ripped apart, and they got stripped of everything down to their bare minimum and had to start all over again, and now sort of understand unconditional love, and they don't have the same needs and pains, to chase or to be chased and things like that as they did before. They're healed now. But if the other person didn't get the healing, the healed person cannot, now you're really on two different planes. The healed person cannot successfully join with the person that hasn't done the work. And so that one may fall off, depending upon the degree to which they have done or not done their self-work. And so the fact that they fall off and then somebody else comes in, the universe sends someone else in, all this is planned in advance too. That's why we have more than one soulmate. This replacement comes in, doesn't mean that the first one was fake. It just means we all have free will, and they chose, whether they realized it or not, they chose by their actions and decisions along the way not to stay on this path in the timeline expected. Now, can people come back together at some other time? Sure. Does that happen? Sure. This is why you have people that sometimes remarry the same person. We weren't on the same page at one point. Now we're back on the same page. Let's get married again. You have people that don't find the one, sadly, until they're like 70, 80 years old. You see these stories. Let's hope that at least, for as many of us as possible, our time comes before that. But these are the sort of things that can, come out of the choices that we make and the delays that we cause on our own journey or that of our, anticipated or expected partner. When we make, choices. So I shuffled these cards, and I started with family, and since I went into this other conversation, I failed to talk to you about what the family card was about. And basically, it's something that we've touched on during this reading already. We're all born into a family with a purpose, the same way, what I was just talking about, born into a potential partnering with a purpose. We're all born into this life with a purpose. And, we're meant to experience certain things and to, again, come together or not, or remain together or not, based on those things. And most of us, even throughout that, is what the card is about, the family card, tend to believe that we're still supposed to remain with or hold on to and be nice to all of our family members, like regardless of this. And that's really not true. And, it's okay for family members to take a step back, or for you to take a step back from a family member and things too. This, in relation to our reading, this could be letting go, maybe releasing, could be an actual relationship with I don't think so based on the Six of Pentacles, but in theory it could be, because it's the Four of Pentacles in reverse. I think more likely is releasing any negative emotions, any grudges or whatever that we were holding against maybe a family member or a friend, and finding it in our hearts to, again, take them in, not necessarily physically in terms of taking them in and giving them a space in our home, but, take them in, take them back, support, love them, and have it be like reciprocal, at least to the extent that it can be. Sometimes people can't always give us something of equal or greater value as to what we're giving them, but it becomes equitable, or at least and feels like equal value when we appreciate stuff, and when we count our appreciate, including what we have of our own, and when we count our blessings. So if I can afford to give you money to help you in your problem, to pay your rent or whatever, that's my thing. I'm able to do that. You're not able to do that. You're the one that needs money, but you're able to give me support, maybe in a way that I can't give you. You're able to be that listening ear and give me the advice. Maybe you are skilled in this. Maybe you, at least at heart, if not officially, are a counselor, a therapist, a psychic or something. And so so then it is equal value, right? And we're supporting each other reciprocally. So I think that I say all this to say it could be definitely a family member. with whom we are letting go of whatever grudge or obstacle there was between us having a healthy relationship, even if we can mutually decide or do mutually decide that that healthy relationship is for us to, maybe not be up in each other's faces, whenever, unless we need to, And perhaps tied to that, the little children card that we now have as an overall energy, is about it's about childhood innocence and how children, don't really hold grudges and, believe the best in everybody and are willing to give you a chance, and another chance and another chance, and, still remain positive. And for us to try to be a little bit more childlike. It could be about us being more childlike in other ways too, like just not taking everything and ourselves so seriously all the damn time. Eternal embrace is about, connections, healthy connections, maybe like those soulmate connections that we were talking about perhaps. And also how, like, when we mirror each other, we mirror people. And so when we see something in somebody else that we don't like, then that may be something in ourselves that we actually don't like. And that could be what's going on with us with our family members, with our close friends, with our romantic relationships, and so forth. Color. Wait, what was color about? Oh, I remember. It's about what I was just talking about. Frequencies, wavelengths. So it asks us to pay attention to the colors that we see throughout the week. Like, maybe you'll see a lot of purple. You'll see a lot of maybe yellow, gold, how we seeing a lot of pentacles here, for example. You see a lot of, I don't know. And then you connect it to the flame, right? So for example, you see a lot of purple, then you connect it to the purple flame, and maybe you want to Google what the purple flame is about and focus on that area of your life. You see a lot of green, then maybe you got it to focus on the emerald flame this week, and you want to look and see what that's about. The blue flame, so on and so forth. Okay, and that's the last upright card. So now I'm going to use these, like I said, to clarify these, starting with the Four of Pentacles in reverse. We have Mother Mary, and she too was in reverse. What is she about? Love, blessings, miracles, not harboring hate, and all of these things. So again, it's about letting go and surrender. She's all about that too. And again, counting our blessings, being appreciative of what we have, manifesting more miracles in our lives. Joining the Six of Pentacles, we have confusion. And I think this could be somewhat literal. At least one of the ways I'm picking it up is, again, somebody's dealing with a situation, maybe a confusion, maybe they themselves are in a confused state. Could possibly be brought on by Neptune. Neptune goes direct this week. Actually, we'll talk about that in a minute when I finish the cards. So, again, this is about the support. Somebody, again, whether it's a counselor, a friend, family member, combinations of those that can help you through this state of confusion to like getting back on your feet. That's going to be something valuable to you this week. More traditional meaning, like from the book, it can be about conflicting choices, a decision you're having trouble making, which we also saw evidence of with the Seven of Cups and things. You want to narrow something down and choose one, and so maybe you have several options. That's probably what made me think about Neptune and Neptune's retrograde. Work and finance, moving into that, joining the Ten of Pentacles in reverse, we have the Lovers. So Lovers in the traditional tarot is another one of these cards that is about a heart versus head decision, at least in some cases. And so it can be about thoughts of like leaving your job or, changing your career path or choice. And, it can be a decision that maybe, again, in your heart, there's something else you want to do, despite the amount of money that you make or potential to make money in a job that you don't have yet. in a particular industry. That's not what's in your heart to do. So it's like my head is telling me, continue to make this money. Like, this is lucrative. And my heart is telling me, like, this is not where you want to be. This is not the sort of thing. Like my sister, for example, she went to, she graduated like summa cum laude, and she majored in journalism. And even while she was in school, she worked at the AP for a while, Associated Press. When she graduated, she was, continued to work with the AP. But she found in her experience in journalism that some of journalism is about, turning a blind eye, or maybe not even necessarily telling the truth or the whole truth, the full truth, leaving things out, to make a story. And she was not comfortable with that. So she completely changed her career path and went into something else, totally unrelated. She teaches classes for her state. She works for her state, works for the government. And she teaches, she does training classes on behalf of the government for other government agencies. Yeah, so it had nothing to do with journalism. And so it could be something like that. Would journalism have been lucrative for her? Yes, with that graduate, with her degree and with her experience already, just fresh out of college, well, sure it would have been. But it wasn't in her heart to do. So it's something like that. Love and relationship. The Prophet. And I'm liking this tree here. It's giving tree of life, which is very divine masculine, or very father, which is very divine masculine. And I also like the beam of light that appears to be coming out of the center, it's about like creation or co-creating. And again, this is what this Eight of Pentacles is about, putting in the work together for the desired outcome of the relationship. Physical health. We have mythic reality. So again, it's what you feel your reality is in one moment, and maybe that's just in your head. Maybe that's a mythical reality. Maybe it's not the real reality. The real reality of things is that stuff is temporary, and you're not always going to feel like this. And there's a way there are things that we can do to change it. And over the rainbow or beyond the rainbow, there is, miracles can happen, and something can turn around completely, even if you think you're without help. And lastly, joining spiritual health, we have intimacy. And I think for some of us, this really will have something to do with, again, love, relationship, maybe more specifically, intimacy, some of these vows of chastity that we've taken, maybe in a past life or in our past, or even now, like the celibacy, or sometimes comes from a place of fear. We have intimacy issues, so we call it celibacy. These may be some of the sort of things that some of us among us may decide to finally release and decide to address this week. Further advice, we'll pull one for the masculine. We have heart and soul. And so this is a card that is about, again, what's in your heart, what's in your soul. It's something having to do with those soulmates or twin flames or things that I was talking about. Or more so in accordance with the book, it could be showing up to show us that, or let us know that we're some sort of transformation, a change is occurring in us or around us in our life, like right this moment, attached to the spirit of love. So whether that means a heart opening, a heart chakra, being cleared, or a relationship improving. Love is on all forms, so not necessarily romantic love. Could be, again, this familial love, or with a friend, healing something. It's like a confirmation that, everything is unfolding as it should. And for us to, again, maybe surrender and allow, and there's just like no need for concern or, overthinking. And for the feminine, we have past lives. So I think it's funny, I just mentioned the word past lives a moment ago, and in connection to this card, that it looks a lot like, right? It's like the same color scheme or whatever, connection to the intimacy. So again, I think some of us are dealing this week with some things from our past in this life, and or our past lives, be that some sort of intimacy concern or issue, or sexuality, again, concern or issue, being over sexual or sexualized, or the opposite, these things can come in a lot of, or maybe having experienced some sort of trauma, in our past involving sexuality or intimacy, and finally deciding to, or finally having reached a place, maybe not through a conscious decision, that where we're able to release whatever was holding us back from that, from dealing with that hurt, maybe through some sort of miracle or blessing that has recently touched our lives. We're finally able to deal with this situation and clear it. And that's what I have for you this week in terms of a reading. I'm going to pick up my laptop now and talk about some other stuff that's happening throughout the week. What was that? I don't know. But let's get the computer on. I am signing on. Oops. Okay. There we go. It's on. So this week we have on the Hebrew calendar, Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to all those who celebrate. So this is another one of these seasons or festivals of light versus dark. It is called the Festival of Lights. And it's when the Hebrews were blessed to be able to make just like a drop of oil last for 8 days. And this may be what's bringing about some of the energy of, again, letting go of grudges and things, and just realizing the importance of family and supporting each other. And family means different things, and that's not necessarily a birth family, but importance of family and supporting one another, and not taking life so seriously, but at the same time realizing, like what a gift it is, and that, we're here for a time, and we got to do what we're meant to do within that time, or miss out. So I think that's what's going on there with that. I won't go into detail about what Hanukkah is, because I think I have so many times already, and there's so many other places from where you can learn that. So I'm going to move to the Muslim calendar, where there is nothing this week, and then the Christian calendar, we're on the 30th, November 30th. So that's Tuesday, the last day of the month. We will, or Christians around the globe, will recognize the feast day of Saint Andrew the Apostle. So those of you who've been watching me for a while know that Saint Andrew is one of my favorites. And there's a card. Oh, it's in the Romance Angels. There's a card called Release Your Ex. And it's EX, as in let go of your ex, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Or release them from whatever hold or whatever it means. But it would also mean, for me, like release like your letter X, like your inner X, or your inner Saint Andrew. And what I always meant by that was that Saint Andrew was, most of the apostles were martyred. In fact, they all, there was an attempt to martyr them all, but John is believed by many to have, or at least one of the earliest stories about John is that he was boiled in oil, but escaped unscathed, like miraculously. And so then he was, when they were like, okay, we can't kill him, obviously, he was banished to this place called Patmos, I think it was called, Patmos, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, he was banished instead of being martyred. But the others, they were all killed they were all persecuted and murdered for their support of Jesus. So St. Andrew, not unlike the others, he was to be crucified. But he felt like he didn't have the right to die like Jesus, because he wasn't a holy man to that extent. He wasn't the anointed one and all this sort of thing. So I don't have the right to die the same way, the one that we believe is the anointed one died. Put me on an X instead of a cross. So in doing that, he was choosing the manner of his own death. And so when I tell people to release their X, or when I would pull that card in some of my readings, and I would say that this is your time to define for yourself, your life, It's like you choose. Again, we are in control of how we respond to things and of our own choices. And that's it, right? That's again how the free will works. So use those moments when you're responding to I'm defining my life. You don't define that for me. That's releasing your ex. So that's why he's one of my favorites. Anyway, to give you what they have to say about him on the internet, I went to Catholic.org. St. Andrew the Apostle. St. Andrew, also known as Andrew the Apostle, was a Christian apostle and the older brother to St. Peter. According to the New Testament, Andrew was born in the village of Bethsaida on the Sea of Galilee during the early 1st century. Much like his younger brother, Simon Peter, Andrew was also a fisherman. Andrew's very name means strong, strength. And he was known for having good social skills. In the Gospel of Matthew, it said, Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee and saw Andrew and Simon Peter fishing. It is then that he asked the two to become disciples and fishers of men. In the Gospel of Luke, Andrew is not initially named. It describes Jesus using a boat believed to be solely Simon's to preach to the multitudes and to catch a large amount of fish on a night that was originally dry. Later, in Luke 5:7, it mentions Simon was not the only fisherman on the boat, but it is not until Luke 6:14 that there is talk of Andrew being Simon Peter's brother. However, the Gospel of John also tells a separate story stating that Andrew was a disciple of John the Baptist. When Jesus walked by one day, John the Baptist stated, "Behold, the Lamb of God." It is then that Andrew and another made a decision to follow Jesus instead. Little else is said about Andrew in the Gospels, but it's believed Andrew was one of the closer disciples to Jesus. It was he who told Jesus about the boy with the loaves and fishes, according to John 6:8. When Philip wanted to speak to Jesus about Greeks seeking him, he spoke to Andrew first. Andrew was also present at the Last Supper. Per Christian tradition, Andrew went on to preach the good news around the shores of the Black Sea and throughout what is now Greece and Turkey. Andrew was martyred by crucifixion in Patras. He was bound rather than nailed to a cross, as is described in the Acts of Andrew. He was crucified on a cross form known as crux decusata, which is an X-shaped cross or a saltire. Today, this is commonly referred to as St. Andrew's cross. It's believed Andrew requested to be crucified in this way because he deemed himself unworthy to be crucified on the same type of cross as Jesus. Andrew's remains were originally preserved in Patras. However, some believe Saint Regulus, who was a monk at Patras, received a vision telling him to hide some of Andrew's bones. Shortly after Regulus's dream, many of Andrew's relics were transferred to Constantinople by order of Roman Emperor Constantius II in around the year 357. Regulus later received orders in a second dream telling him to take the bones, quote, to the ends of the earth, end quote. He was to build a shrine for them wherever he shipwrecked. He landed on the coast, it says coat, but I think it probably should be coast of Fife in Scotland. In September 1964, Pope Paul VI had all of St. Andrew's relics that ended up in the Vatican sent back to Patras. Now many of Andrew's relics and the cross on which he was martyred are kept in the Church of St. Andrew's in Patras. St. Andrew is venerated in Georgia as the first preacher of Christianity in that territory, and in Cyprus for having struck the rocks, creating a gush of healing waters upon landing on the shore. His saltire cross is featured on the flag of Scotland and is represented in much of his iconography. He is commonly portrayed as an old man with long white hair and a beard, often holding the gospel book or a scroll. St. Andrew is the patron saint of fishermen and singers. He's also the patron saint to several countries and cities, including Scotland, Romania, Russia, Ukraine, and Patras. And his feast day is celebrated on November 30th. And with that, we'll move to the planetary or celestial calendar and starting from today, November 28th. So there's nothing today. There's nothing until December 1st at 8:22 a.m. Neptune goes direct. And then the next thing is on December 4th, which is Saturday, the last day for which this reading is. We will experience at 2:43 a.m. the new moon and total solar eclipse in Sagittarius. So we'll do a separate moon reading, but we'll talk a little bit about Neptune going direct first from www.tarot.com. A fog is rolling in. Nebulous Neptune is the planet of illusion and confusion. Oh, remember when confusion came up? I said this is giving me Neptune. And it went retrograde for 5 months earlier this year. During this time of clear sight, life might have felt all too real. But when Neptune goes direct on December 1st, in its home sign of Pisces, we'll be able to dip back into that lovely fantasy world we prefer to reality, which may also be tied to this. Neptune is the planet that protects us from reality when it's too harsh. Neptune gives us faith, spirituality, and dreams. So when it's retrograde, we saw things very clearly and found it harder to escape. Neptune direct, on the other hand, gives us a break. It's sort of encouraging us to live in denial and to ignore the nagging fears we don't feel quite ready to deal with. But that's okay, because it does inspire our imaginations and gives us faith. There's a dark side to Neptune direct, as there is anytime you choose fantasy over reality. And that is, we may take our escapism too far and delude ourselves into doing the wrong things, like staying in bad relationships or jobs. But if we try to think a little bit more objectively, we can avoid that pitfall. Use this time instead to appreciate your ability to dream and the expressions of your compassion you meet. Neptune wants to show you the ideal beauty in the world, and this is your chance to let go and to feel your way through it with all your heart. And as I was reading that, I got 2 more messages about this. So for somebody, a friend may be in need of some sort of support or something, but it's possible that you're going through your own thing, and so you're really not up to it. And you may have to let go of like a needy friend or a family member or something, because if you're going to use what strength you have and, to deal with the emotions that you're going through yourself, you're going to need to take a step back from them and their problems. That was one. And oh goodness, what was the other thing? I'm making mental notes as I was reading. Oh yeah, a masculine, this one is love and relationship, may come forward, release his bad situation and or relationship, and come forward to you, maybe somewhat unexpectedly, maybe completely unexpectedly. You might be in full separation, but he's wanting to be with you. Could be an earth sign himself, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. He's going to let go of that relationship. He's going to come to you, and he's going to do this, before Neptune goes direct. So before the 1st, if he's going to do it. So it would be like within the next couple days, like by the 30th. And that's all I have for you today with the general reading. Please do like, share, subscribe, and comment. I really do appreciate it, because they keep telling me that that's going to solve the problems that we run into with the algorithm in this channel. Also, there was something else. So I'm going to come back with the love reading. I'll do a separate moon reading. That's not what I wanted to tell you. What was it? Again, I was trying to make a mental note as I was talking about something else, and I think I forgot. I think it may have something to do with the false twins and the walk-ins. Walk-ins are the replacements. And I don't remember, but if I think of it before I do the love reading, I'll mention it there. I guess it's more applicable there anyway. So maybe this is just a preview, and we'll see what unfolds when I go to do the love reading. All right, I'll be back. Thank you again. Like, share, subscribe. Namaste.